Today I am going to be honest with you. And I'm not a politician, so you can trust the sincerity, at least of my desire to be honest. I'm going to start with what it is that I do. I'm a climate change activist. But in different spheres, I use different ways of describing what I do because climate change, not the most exciting, inspiring coupling of words that you could possibly have. I think when people hear climate change, they either switch off, they might have what I have, which is a burning fear and desire to do something, but usually it's just the burning fear. They might be confused. They probably will be disengaged. They might not really believe in what you're saying, in the foundation of your belief. And activist, kind of quite a similar problem with that word. You know, it's inaccessible. It sometimes seems like what you're doing can't possibly be connected with the real world, that it's distant, confusing. Are you really like me? Do we share anything? So in different contexts, I'll use different ways of describing myself. I'll be an environmental consultant. I'll be a campaigns consultant. And when I'm feeling particularly flash, and this is what I went for on my business card, I will be the director of a small, not-for-profit environmental lobby group. Yesterday was my birthday, and in less than a week, I will be taking 7 friends up to the top north coast of Scotland, to a little remote village called Scowrie. It's 1 hour south of John O'Groats, so really, really far north. It's the end of November, and I'm taking 7 friends to the northernmost tip of Scotland. 10 years ago, my granny, my Scottish granny, if I had told her that I was planning to do this, would have said, "Oh, you're crazy." 10 years ago, the roads that link this very remote village with the nearest train station between the months of maybe end of November to February would have been covered in snow. People are starting to talk about climate change again. And after the year that we've had, it doesn't really surprise me. In Australia, they experienced their worst ever natural disaster. That's what Julia Gillard, the Prime Minister there, said. In Queensland, an area the size of France and Germany was flooded, and it cost $30 billion to clean up, and that is still ongoing. In China, they had a 1 in 100-year drought. 17 countries recorded the hottest ever temperature. And the Arctic sea ice has been recorded this summer at an all-time record low. I'm 27. And the first time that I was arrested was when I was 23. Fresh out of Cambridge, bright-eyed, I joined a radical anti-aviation activist group. I was supporting one of their protests when I was arrested, and I was taken into custody. 17 hours later, some tears, some thinking, I was released. When I found out about climate change, there was a real urgency to my fear. There was a kind of recognition that all big social changes have come about because there have been a vanguard of nonviolent direct activists opening up that space and pushing hard. There was also a desire, on finding out about climate change, to do something that would be commensurate with the scale of the threat. And that means more than changing light bulbs by choosing not to take a plastic bag or even choosing not to fly. So after that, after that experience, my cell time became more of a frequent occurrence in my life. On the 14th of February 2008, I was arrested for saying no to Heathrow. That's me up there. On the 14th of February 2008, on the 17th of August 2008, I was arrested for saying no to an oil refinery. On the 13th of October 2008, I was arrested for saying no to airport expansion. This slide. Airport expansion, new coal-fired power stations, and inadequate climate policy. On the 4th of February 2009, I was arrested for saying no to airport expansion at City Airport. On the, sorry, this is a little bit of a roll call. I want you to respect me. I'm hard. I might not sound it, but I am. On the 4th of April 2011, I was arrested for saying no to George Osborne's budget. And then most recently, on the 12th of November 2011, not more than a month ago, in fact, much less than a month ago, I was arrested for saying no to Southend Airport. There is something heroic in saying no to things, in being arrested for saying no to things. And to be honest, even I, an eternal optimist, find that there is a lot to say no to right now. No, we don't want business as usual. No, we don't want a spiraling gap between rich and poor. No, we don't want trillions of dollars worth of debt. No, we don't want 1 million young people and rising to be unemployed. And as the temperatures rise, and as climate change emissions outpace economic growth, as the carbon intensity globally for the first time in 11 years rises, we say no to climate change. We say no to species extinction and resource wars. We say no to fossil fuels, although we still want energy. We say no to aviation, but of course we all want to fly. I have made a bit of a reputation for myself by saying no to things. But the reality is that right now we are at a crossroads. We can't keep saying no to things. I've been arrested with various groups. I've put myself at the radical fringe of political debate, trying to encourage people to move into a space, to become agents of change rather than instruments of the status quo. What else have I done? I'm going to turn around once to get my bearings. Okay. And I've helped build coalitions, broad-based coalitions that are intended to kind of push the government into a position that we say. But this, again, is another form of saying no. So the plan to expand Heathrow Airport, the plan to sell all of England's public forest estate. Both of these plans would have had terrible environmental legacies. And so I helped build a broad-based coalition. And together, we forced the government to turn back from these toxic policies. But now I am 27, and I am an expert at saying no, but I find myself daunted, really terribly daunted, because maybe it's time I grew up. Maybe it's time that I found out what it means to say yes to things. And the good thing about this realization is that I find I'm not alone. That a lot of people are wondering what it might feel like to start saying yes to things. History is peppered with heroic names. And these are the people that we like to think changed society. We know them: William Wilberforce, Martin Luther King, Emmeline Pankhurst, particular inspiration for me. But our real story is working together. Communities with shared interests, creating solutions to shared problems. Whatever the current vogue is for individual actions and individual stories, the reality of human history and human progress has been collaborative. It has been cumulative, and it has been built from very specific contexts. The 21st century, with climate change, global networks, and technological innovation, is going to be no different. 3 examples of cities that are ahead of the curve and positioning themselves ahead of the curve. And if we are wise as young people and ambitious, then that is exactly where we will put ourselves too. Copenhagen, extraordinary mayor there, has put a target to make Copenhagen zero carbon by 2025. She's working with cycling groups and cycling lobbyists, and together they are pressuring the national government to implement a congestion charge in the middle of Copenhagen. What this has led to is 40% of people in Copenhagen, rather than the 4% in London, are cycling regularly to work, to school, to the shops. In Munich, Shanghai, and Sao Paulo, these three cities are massively innovating and revolutionizing their metros. They are investing in a lot of research. They're spending hundreds of millions of pounds making sure that there is access to renewable energies. And they are creating high-speed rail hubs so that this innovation that is just happening in their city reaches out beyond the city grounds. One of my favorites is Tucson in Arizona. Tucson is a small kind of liberal town in, small might not be true. It's a liberal town in the middle of Arizona. And a group of individuals have got together and have demanded that legislators basically make it legal for them to use grey water to irrigate their crops and to water their plants. That wasn't legal before. Now, because it's a good idea and because of what happens with good ideas, in less than 2 years, that idea has spread across Arizona. Now it's being piloted in other states with tax incentives for people who install grey water systems in their homes. So that's quite exciting. And it goes to show that there really are, and I could have, researching this was one of the most exciting things that I ever did. And this is very much the crossroad moment for me, and I'm starting to look for solutions. But there are hundreds of thousands more and more inspiring examples than the ones that I have highlighted. And it really is happening right now that people are thinking around these things. And they're not just thinking of it in groups like this. They're thinking of it in finance, they're thinking of it in fashion, they're thinking of it in design, in retail, in architecture, even in government. But what's important is that we get involved in those conversations and push them so much further. We have to liberate those conversations from greenwash. We have to make sure that the best examples are spread across the world and communicated well. I want to tell you about something that I am helping, a kind of project that I'm getting involved in Newham. Newham is one of London's poorest councils. I want to tell you about this, but as I say, I am at the crossroads and I am taking tentative yet brave steps in this direction, and I'm not yet ready. But in 5 years' time, hopefully TED will have me back and I will tell you about the exciting, innovative projects that are going on in Newham. You see, it's not enough to say no to things. It's not enough to have a brilliant idea, or a vision, or a hope, or even a criticism. Climate change is too close and much too scary for that. Instead, we need to start making proposals. We need to propose designs. We need to propose town planning projects. We need to propose things and then get funders on board and then find the people who will take these ideas and put them out to the majority, make them in the mainstream. Because it is inevitable. Like the sun rising, a carbon-free future is inevitable. The question is, how are we going to get there? Will it be jolts and sudden, without any planning? Or are we going to make the plans, put forward the proposals, and move forward to this future? I mean, it is already happening. Apart from the not good enough examples that I talked about earlier, there is the extraordinary example of Curitiba. It's one of the biggest cities in South Brazil. It's considered to be the capital of South Brazil. And if you haven't heard of it, then please go and look at it, Google it, Curitiba. There they already have a pedestrianized central zone of the city. They have affordable public transport, which is also green, accessible to all. They have a network, I think, of 47 parks and green spaces across the city. 70% of their citizens are sorting and recycling their own rubbish. and they have made robust flood defenses because they are preparing for the future. What's important is that we make sure these anomalies, these brilliant visions of a sustainable world, become a universal reality. I'm going to end with the words of my colleague, Chief Inspirer, wonderful, wonderful person who should be here really in my place. We might be losing, but we are going to win. Thank you.